Hello again. So today I got something in the mail and you get to look at it with me. This came from a gentleman I met on the interweb, and he is an inspiration to me because of his enthusiasm at which he attacks the calligraphic world. And unlike me, he jumps in the deep end and goes in every single direction, where I jump in and barely manage to do the one thing I do. But these are some of his things, and including this delightful thing that he's working on now, where he uses brush and dry brush and wet brush and obviously beautiful gold leaf to come up with clever quotations. Peace is more important than all the justice, and peace has not made for the sake of justice, but justice for the sake of peace, by Martin Luther. And I'm sure that if I had read this in advance of reading it aloud right now, it would sound better, because I would put the accent on the correct words. But oftentimes with calligraphy, the legibility aspect in reading it is not as much fun as the actual just delight in the way it looks. Anyway, yes, thank you very much, Nicola. But in it came this pen, and I have to find out more about it from the person who sent it me, from Nicola, but it looks like it's a perfectly lovely mix of pens and manufacturers. The clip says Parker with a little blue diamond that may have been added subsequent to the pen's manufacturer. Nick said it was a Japanese pen that sort of is there, an imitation of the Parker 51, which is why it has the nib that looks like that. There are very many differences between the nib. The pen says Parker Vacuumatic, but with these particular pens, it's hard for me to know what is original and what isn't, because all of it looks. This looks like a duofold. This looks like a Vacuumatic. The clip looks like a 51, and Nick said he did not put a sack in it. So he said, I can do that. And yes, I can. So the sack would go right there. So let me do that while I yammer. And then I will put ink in it and I will draw something with it. So what I'm doing is I'm using my dental tool here to scrape off the remnants of the old sack. And then I will be able to put a new sack on it. And we'll fill it up. Nicola knows that I love 51s that I love 51s, period. And I also delight in seeing what other companies do to come up with their version of the 51, and it might be a legitimate pen company like Waterman or Eversharp with their versions, or it could be something less good. I'm sure that the fly-by-night pen companies were delighted at the 51 because they could then make a nib that has even less gold than what I'm doing is I'm applying shellac to the sack nipple. Nipple. Yeah. Grow up here. And that glues the sack to the section. So let's just make sure that doesn't slide off in a few minutes. So anyway, the Brand X companies probably were delighted in the fact that they could make a pen nib that even has less gold than a standard nib. The way the light is hitting this nib, it looks like it's a steel nib rather than gold. Gold plated. Now this is a button fill, which means it fills like a dual fold, where there's a pressure bar on the inside of this thing that when you press the button, it squeezes up against the sack. And if it's like any, see this, you squeeze the button and this pushes up against the sack. And if this were a Parker dual fold, you would screw this in first and then put this in through the back, because if you screw it in with this in there, you'll end up twisting the sack around. So, sorry I didn't show you that I was doing all of this. So let's fill it up with ink and try it out. And then I'll do a drawing for Nicola. Yep, see, it fills. Now, Nick has been having made pens that have Parker 51 caps, and he has someone manufacturing new barrels with all sorts of wild colors and wild caps. And for example, this one is another one he gave me. This is a Parker 51 underneath all of this, which you would never know, because yes, it looks like a 51, but it also looks like a piece of candy. And it's quite fun, but it's not quite a 51 for those of you that know 51s. This is not quite a dual fold or a 51 or a vacuumatic, but it has parts that look like it was made up. This might be a Franken pen. I'll have to find out from him what it is. So let's draw with it. What's interesting, one of the things that's interesting about this pen is it's heavy. It's big also, and it's heavy. I don't know why it's heavy, but you can see the, well, it is, I guess it isn't any bigger than a 51. Why does it feel bigger? I guess because the cap sticks out more. Maybe this metal end is heavy. Not quite sure, but it's really fun. It's a fun little pen, and I will have fun drawing with it. So let me do a drawing. Nicola is one of these calligraphers who's able to make beautiful flourishes that, you know, when he does this, when he does that, all of these things are equidistant. That is equal to this, you know, they're all perfectly designed. I don't have the ability to do that. And in a way, I don't really have the desire to do that, but I guess I would love to have the ability. I'd love to be able to do that, and I don't know how. So I pretend not to want to do it. Don't tell anyone, but I don't know how to do it, and I really want to learn. I'm reminded of that line in Importance of Being Earnest, where the butler comes in and Algernon says, who just was playing the piano as the curtain rises. "Did you hear what I was playing, Lane?" And Lane, the butler, says, "No, I didn't think it polite to listen, sir." And Algernon says, "I don't play accurately. Anyone can play accurately. I play with feeling." So that's sort of what I do. That's what I say I do. I calligraph with feeling, which is to say, I don't know how to do it accurately. So this is, again, it's very strange. My brain wants to think it's a 51, but it seems the balance is weird because it's longer, and it's sort of wants to come up like this out of my hand. So it's an interesting feel. So anyway, back to Nicola. So Nicola is one of these people, again, these very skillful, accurate, but also with feeling, as you could see in the examples I showed you. But he's one of these people who is able to draw the beautiful calligraphic bird with one stroke after another that are all equidistant apart, and then they become the feathers, and make little spirals and little curlicues like this in between them, and it ends up looking great. Where my birds look like roadkill, with the tire treads going right over the top of them with things squished out here and there. But that's okay. There's room in this universe for both types of calligraphic birds. They could be calligraphic birds, or as Nicola calls them, derpy birds, because there's no way that many of these calligraphic animals can actually fly or moo or whatever they're doing, because they're just not built correctly, they're not drawn correctly to actually be able to gain altitude. So that's why I draw my bird flattened and dead, X's on the eyeballs. Here we go. How's that for a calligraphic roadkill? So what a fun pen. Thank you very much, Nicola.